I don't see video back up on YouTube yet, but that's just me.
I assume there's a
You
delay.
may notice, if you're watching, by the way, that we are not in our normal spot, which is gone forever.
Yes.
Because it
exists, but there's a airplane in it.
There's a plane from Delta Dream Flight here. Now we are in a very scary part of town in the alley. I hope a gangster doesn't come.
Looks an awful lot like the underworld.
Yeah. You never know. To kind of dovetail to what you're saying about this intimacy of the event, what was cool was on Friday, a lot of things went right with the event. A lot of things went wrong. One of the things that went wrong was we were supposed to have a meet and greet at Celebration Brewing Company. They were supposed to open a long time ago. They said, we will be open in time for the event. We booked the event there.
Yeah.
They contacted us week of. They're like, due to inspections, permits, whatever, we're not going to be open. So we had to call an audible on that. And honestly, for a while, we were freaking out. And then someone finally called me back. And we had a beer truck come pull up. We rolled up the back door of the studio. So cool. We had this event. And I think it actually turned out to be better than it would have been anywhere else. Just because people were able to mingle and mix with these Imagineers who had traveled all the way here. We had over 20 of them. And sit down, get their autographs. There was an event exclusive. There were 2 event exclusive lithographs that they were able to not only have autograph, but really have genuine exchanges with these Imagineers.
Yeah.
Some of them were very playful. Their autographs are pointing at each other's autographs, and I thought it was really great. But to rewind a little bit, the mad scramble to make it all happen, which you were present for a portion of that.
Thursday was the worst day of my life.
It was bad.
I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
Look, I've been called out by the Walt Disney Company. I've had personal struggles, some of which people out there know. But Thursday was actually the worst day of my life because in the 16 years I've been in this company, one thing we are all really good at in this organization is getting across the finish line, even if it is at the absolute last moment. And I think for the first time in 16 years, it felt like we did not cross the finish line. And it was no fault of anyone in this organization. We had literally Murphy's Law. Anything that could have gone wrong in the time between when we signed the lease for next door and me returning from Japan went wrong, right? You guys didn't get the keys to next door until...
We got access. We were supposed to get access to next door in the first week of April.
Yeah.
Their construction next door was predictably delayed.
Yeah.
We got access to next door on the 24th.
But actually, the original date we were given before I left was the day I was leaving. It was March 25th.
March 25th.
Yeah.
So, for perspective, because our CEO is very demanding, we were trying to make 3 bells chime at the same time. We were trying to move, we were trying to prepare for the event, and we were trying to complete the museum. All these projects happened at the same time, and none of them could start until we got access to the space next door.
Yeah.
So then this mad scramble begins, and to top it all off, our streaming computer had gremlins in it. Right, our vMix machine, vMix is software we use. Yeah. That machine had been getting progressively worse and worse and worse.
And the podcast audience knows because you guys missed some weeks were corrupted. You guys were the victim of all that.
Correct. So the problems went from isolated incidents to getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
And the problem was really difficult to nail down. It's easy to say just replace the machine. The video card in that machine is worth more than a lot of cars. Right, so it was difficult to nail that down and go, is it a hardware problem, is it a software problem, or is it a network problem? And it was all 3 of those, but the one that was actually causing the biggest problem we ended up having to replace the machine. So there's all these things happening.
Did we figure out what it was, or we just at that point
No, it is
the time ran out?
There are things that event logs don't capture. There are things that a memory test didn't capture. There are things we replaced the motherboard because it said it was a motherboard that didn't fit. It's a million things.
So we don't actually know.
So everybody is facing worst case scenarios at the same time. So while Jake's doing that, Jake can't help Lucas with the final mad dash to get the museum across the line. While Lucas and Jake are doing that, I don't have anyone to help me get the office move coordinated and to start finishing things like confirming vendors for the event. superhero, my friend Shelly jumps in with Themes Come True.
Thank God.
Shelly came in and really does amazing work for events. She's licensed to do things like Disney weddings and all that at themescometrue.com. You can check it.
I can't recommend her enough. I think the signs in the museum and the gift baskets and this is not a paid ad. Shelly did us a huge favor, but we also paid. But
she's been my friend for 20 plus years.
So I just want to say that we're an actual customer, and as a customer, we cannot recommend her enough.
Yeah, Themes Come True is amazing, and her team of, as they call them, themestresses, came through in the clutch with very short notice to make a lot of magic for this event. So I think the Thursday night was not exactly
cataclysmic.
It was as bad as it could get.
Like many of you watch News Tonight know it did not work. It did not work, and it took a long time for us to decide we were just going to do it on the phone. Which the funny thing was, afterwards, someone came to me and goes, "It was kind of like a behind-the-scenes look at News Tonight, so it was kind of in the spirit of MGM." And I was like, "Oh, it's a fun way to look at it." I think on Thursday, none of us wanted to look at it that way because I think we all felt like we had failed miserably. I think the moment that things turned for me was when we opened the doors for the meet and greet, and Friday. Immediately there felt like there was a magic in the room that had felt. On Thursday, I remember walking back in the new space and feeling like this space is already emotionally poisoned. I don't like this space. It has a negative energy. And then we opened those doors on Friday, and Jake said things were going a little better back there as he was getting ready to stream the event. A couple of things went into the museum that started to bring the museum to life. And that was when I think everybody in the room let out a slight exhale at that moment. And then the full exhale was probably Saturday morning.
And I learned this from Kathy Rogers, one of these Imagineers. She's amazing, has done a million things that you've heard of and that you love in theme parks. She said, the museum to me was not complete. We didn't get done. But people that saw what was there were like, wow. This is really incredible. There's some cool stuff in there. But she said, no one will know that stuff except you, so don't worry about it. She's saying, all you do is you learn every time you get burned. Because we got burned a few times. This whole time, though, I'm unable to help with a lot of things going on back here because I am the host. Right? You're the host on stage. I'm the host picking up all the Imagineers from the airport, shuttling them back and forth to the hotel, making sure they have all the things, food, drink. Someone got sick. I needed to run her bottles of water, things like that.
But that meant the world. Eric Morton was the hero for everybody of not just the time I've been gone, but of especially the weekend. Because, obviously, the whole team got thanked every time someone came up to me. But specifically, Eric was mentioned every time as Eric Morton is the greatest human being to ever live. Cindy was so appreciative that you brought her the water. Everyone was so appreciative of all the transit you provided. Eric Morton in this organization never gets enough credit for how much he does for all of us. So if you're at home, please stand and applaud for Eric Morton. Please. We'll sense it. We'll feel that it's happened.
It was a lot of fun, though, because driving, I don't know how many trips I've made to MCO in the last week.
You set a record, I think.
Several fingers. And to drive with these Imagineers, who some of them seeing each other for the first time in 35 plus years. To sit with them and listen to their stories and have them tell me little stories or talk about projects they worked on. I mean, these are geniuses. These people are geniuses, and they genuinely loved each other. There was a tight
it was a family
team.
That's what someone sent me an email thanking us for the event, and they wrote something to the effect of, I won't get the exact wording right off the top of my head, but essentially something to the effect of, you could tell on stage that these people were a family. And we could tell back, it was the most magical thing for me. My new office is right across from the green room that we set up for them. And I can't tell you, I'm panicking every morning getting presentations, media ready. But at the same time, I'm hearing them all tell stories, and not even just Imagineering stories, just stories of their lives and sharing a laugh and a joke between each other. That was so magical for me to get to know the people that gave us all so many memories and so much magic in our lives. To hear, to humanize them and to get to know them a little better as people makes, last night we went to Tower Terror. Last night I was so inspired by the event, we wanted to do two things. We went to eat at Sci-Fi Dine-In, and we rode Tower Terror. And both of those things now, those are things I have done a million times in my life over and over and have always been special to me. 35 years later in my life, they now feel different, knowing the people and the heart and the passion that go into those. I will never feel the same going into any of those spaces ever again, having now known and met and heard the stories from these people.
I sat on my couch and did nothing last night.
Well deserved,
for maybe the first time in, I think, about 40 days.
Yeah.
I told Tom the only day off I had in the last, 40 days was getting a colonoscopy. And I would have signed up for another one if it meant I could have missed another day.
There was a conversation last week where I think Lucas and Eric and everyone, Eric says that, everyone goes, I think we're all going to go for group colonoscopies next week.
That's great. No, it was, but some highlights. I mean, on Thursday night, everything had gone to hell. Thursday night, and I'm not part of the show. Once the audience gets seated, all my responsibilities are kind of done. The only Imagineer that I'm, at that point, that I have picked up is Eric Robinson. Amazing, world-renowned artist,
good friend of
former
ours,
Imagineer, has done so much incredible work.
Yeah.
So he goes, I'm sitting at, he tells me a bar he's at. So I'm like, I'm there. So I just go, I hang out, and he's hanging out with some people, and so he's sitting at the bar talking to people, but he's got a Sharpie in his hand. He's just sketching on napkins and pieces of paper, and people are like, "Oh, thanks." These people have no idea I don't know what an original work of Eric Robinson is worth on the market. But I mean, he's handing people valuable artwork that he's created just for them, while we're sitting there.
No, there are whole galleries in Europe of his Disney art. Eric's very well known and very popular. Yeah.
Right, he's incredible. And so I just had a great time, immediate bond with him. We've been, ever since this event started, he sent me a friend request on Facebook, and we've been in regular communication. He did an amazing original piece for this event.
Oh, yeah.
That everyone got a print of if they came.
Those that don't know the backstory, Eric, the last several years, is basically, again, he's not a current Imagineer, but he's been under contract with WDI several times to do art pieces, essentially, that celebrate the major anniversaries of Disney parks around the world. So if you remember, I don't know if people went to, there was a Destination D event at the Contemporary for the 50th of Walt Disney World. I think it was November of 21.
Yes, it was.
They did a piece, and it's the official art piece of Walt Disney World's 50th, but it's all 4 parks and the monorail and all that. They sold it on a Disney gift card, and that was Eric. Eric did, you probably saw WDI, we posted it too, for the 40th of Tokyo. He did a beautiful piece for Tokyo. And these are the official anniversary pieces that represent these Disney resorts around the world. Disney did not ask Eric to do one for Disney's Hollywood Studios. So I was like, what if we did what would have been? What if we commissioned what would have been the official painting for the anniversary of Disney's Hollywood Studios, but it will be unofficial and live with us? And the idea of being able to do that, and also to everyone who attends to own a piece of art made specifically for the event, it was a magical. That was the beginning. That's before we had almost anyone signed up. Eric Robinson, one of the first people to sign on for the event, and we had a couple people, and it was still going to be special, but that was before the ball rolled, and suddenly almost everyone that worked on the project came to the event.
He flew here from Hawaii. He lives in Hawaii. So he came all the way here. I think I picked him up on Thursday. No, Wednesday. Picked him up on Wednesday. He wasn't even here a week. His body's not even used to the time change, and he's already, put him on a plane yesterday morning. What an amazing person to come do something like that, to travel that far, to come just for all these people that came to the event. I thought that was incredible. Bob Weiss, the most chill, relaxed, humble person, and I couldn't find anyone who said anything but had anything but praise. All those Imagineers, because I tried to ask him. It started with a conversation about Marty Sklar, because I don't know Marty Sklar. I never met him. I said, is it true that he could be an intimidating guy, right? That people were afraid, the phrase was Marty called, that means Marty called. He wants to know if he can change this thing or whatever. People would say that about
Which is in the end of, people probably know this, Carousel of Progress.
Right.
In that final scene on the bulletin board, it says Marty called, wants changes. Yeah, so it's very well known.
And they're all like, no. They're like, he is the coolest, nicest boss. Between he and Bob Weiss, you couldn't ask for two better bosses. And the way that studio's team was connected and built, some of these people came into the company as secretaries, or they were popcorn vendors or sold ice cream at Disneyland and worked their way into WDI. These are probably paths that don't really happen anymore in WDI.
Bob's story was amazing.
And yeah, Bob's story is amazing.
Yeah.
But just like he's just driving in my car. You know, just got Bob Weiss cruising around Celebration with him.
Yeah.
You know, he's just the nicest, most laid back, humble guy, and they all can't talk enough about his leadership. The way that someone has the ability to take all these brilliant minds and get them on the same page and make them all feel like they're part. I think it'd be easy when you have people this talented for a lot of egos to be involved.
Yeah.
Their combined ego, I bet the combined ego of like your average group of 20 people is 3 times the size of the combined ego that was in that room with these Imagineers.
Frank Wigan keeps coming to mind, right? Because Frank Wigan is an
true genius.
actual genius. This man, there's a video out there which Frank doesn't want you to watch because it makes Frank look like a genius. I highly recommend it. Look for Frank Wigan on YouTube. They basically had to trick Frank in order to honor him. They had to tell him they were making a video about his career for school kids to watch so he can go talk to them. But instead it was so he could become a member of the TEA Masters or whatever. And it's only like 10, 15 minutes, and it's just project after project after project, and just shows what an incredible career this one out of the 20 people we had, what a career he had. And Frank was so shy and showed such humility throughout the weekend.
But never know, he just constructed amazing things from the ground up.
Yeah, just invented things that didn't exist.
Right.
Yeah. No, I love him. He was the sweetest guy. I love him. I love all of them.
Yeah.
They were all such nice people. And you're right. Like, look, in my 16 years, I've talked to a lot of Imagineers. And what I never realized until this weekend, hearing them tell stories, is WDI was kind of, not really, like they're all one family, but they were separated. There was kind of 2 sides. There were the Magic Kingdom people, which is kind of the Tony Baxter side, right?
Right.
And then there was the Bob Weiss side. And I never really put that together. But there is a very... there's a different vibe, as the kids would say. There's a very different vibe between the people on the Tony Baxter side and the people on the Bob Weiss side. And it doesn't mean anyone's less talent. Like, both teams are incredible. There's just a different mindset and a different vibe and a different presentation style. It's and I think one of them said to me, they're like, our team was more about getting the product across the finish line. She said, at WDI, you could be a good talker and you get a lot done and you could get a lot of praise. But I think we focused on getting the best product possible across the finish line. And that really resonated with me because MGM, right? Like a project that was insanely rushed. Please watch Stage A9. Again, the proceeds go to Give Kids the World anyway, so you should. And we're showing that replay now if you missed it. I didn't know that they put the buildings up first. The things going into buildings weren't designed. The great movie ride, they threw a building up and they were like, build a ride that fits in this building. Today, if that happened today, we would all grumble. And myself, I'd be at the front of the charge, right? I'd be like, this is why the projects turn out bad because you're doing it this way and blah, blah, blah. And these guys at the what I think is the golden age of Imagineering, they put up buildings first. They were like, all right, what are we putting in the building? Let's figure it out.
I love the story. It was a Catastrophe Canyon.
Yeah.
The original story was, they were given 18 months to design it and build it and make it like final and ready for opening. It's not true. It was 13 months.
Yeah.
Was that Richard that did that?
Richard Vaughn. Obviously working with Chris Brown and other people, but Richard's
Richard
baby.
that told me that.
It was Richard's baby, yeah.
Richard told me, I think there was a documentary where they said we only had 18 months to do all of Catastrophe Canyon from drawing it to building it to having it complete.
Yeah.
And he goes, actually, we figured out later it was 13 months.
So he didn't, one of my favorite things was he didn't start with a drawing, he started with a model. So Richard apparently took just a big thing of foam and just started carving out what it would be. Mm-hmm. And then he just handed the rest of the team the foam and they took it from there, which is insane. That is such a vestige of a time long gone, right? Because now, I think it was Chris that spoke about it. Today, everything's in the computer and you could walk around it digitally and you could see it from every angle. They didn't have some guy just sat there, cut up this model, then they turned it into blueprints and then they built it. And I can't fathom not only that they were able to do it, but do it all so well.
I need to watch this because I did not sit down in this room.
We all missed a bit.
I didn't sit down in this room for 1 second.
Yeah.
I never saw any of the panels or discussions because I was there. Whoever's on stage, I was taking care of whoever wasn't, right?
Yeah.
Or available to go run and do something or drop someone off at the hotel or pick someone up at the hotel.
Yeah.
So, people saying, oh, there was a great Bob Weiss balloon story. I have no idea what the Bob Weiss balloon story was. I saw that in the chat.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't in the room.
Well, that one hasn't aired yet. So that's not part of the Stage 89 stream you're going to get at home.
Okay.
We are holding that until we are allowed to release it, which will be closer to the release of Bob's book in August, which he's releasing. I'll plug it now because I know we can. Bob's book is coming out in August, and specifically, I think August 9th or 10th. It's at D23.
Okay.
Bob is releasing it at D23, and he's signing it at
great.
D23. That much I know.
Just if you look at the list of things that Eric Jacobson's been involved with, it's insane. From more recent stuff like the whole Art of Animation Resort, basically, which he had this leadership responsibility on, to Tower of Terror and Great Movie Ride and all these. I think he did Blizzard. Was he in Blizzard?
He was on the Blizzard Beach team. He and Kathy, the Pirates. He and Kathy did the Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion updates, the 2006 and 2007.
Yeah, just casually as I'm like dropping them off at the airport yesterday. She's like, "Oh yeah, we did that. That room with the endless staircase.
Yeah.
Eric and I worked on that together. We did this together. Like these people are family. They've worked together for decades." And to see them all come together when some of them hadn't seen each other in a long time, and they certainly hadn't all been together in a very long time. And that was my favorite part. So when on the last night, they're trying to throw together a dinner. They're like, oh, we checked with this place. They can't take a party of 20 or whatever. And then it was kind of Kathy and a few others were just like, I said, we could just clear out the chairs from the studio. And they're like, yeah, we could just get Pete. Like, we just want to hang out together. We don't want to be in a restaurant where it might get separated or it's too loud. We would rather all be together and do that. That's amazing. So we had an impromptu dinner here on Sunday night with all of these brilliant people.
And our
sitting
staff.
here, and our staff eating pizza and tacos on Cinco de Mayo. We rolled out a kegerator and got some wine and some
I'm tearing up with
sodas.
you talking about it because it was, I will forever remember
I
that.
did tear up. I don't mind sharing this. I was on my way back. I went to pick up pizza because my job was kind of a runner all weekend.
Yeah.
I go and I'm driving back and I realize I've had all this work over the last couple months really keeping me busy. And there's a lot of stuff that's gone on for me in the last year, in this year in particular, with specifically my brother's passing and things like that, where I suddenly didn't have anything to distract me from that. All that stuff kept me busy. And then I just kind of broke down for a second. It's just like, it's weird. That's never happened to me before. But I mean, I think it was partially the emotion of the event because I could see that people were emotional about what they had experienced this weekend, Imagineers and our staff, and then just things that I've been going through personally. And I was just like, I had a moment where like the weight lifted off my shoulders from pulling off the event because I knew we were there. And then I'm like, now what?
Yeah.
Right now, what? I guess go back to like my normal job.
It's the post-event. I'm sure there's people that plan events that watch this show. There is this post-event depression because you put all your time and energy into a few days.
Yeah.
Right, for so long, and then it especially when it turns out great.
Yeah.
It was great. Like the Imagineers had the time of their life. Our attendees had the time of their lives. We had the time of our lives. I think I speak for everybody, even though we were working and super busy. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think we'd all trade the memories that we all made in that experience for anything. But yeah, I mean, the second the event, and when everyone left, so Jake decided to make everyone super sad who was still here at the very, very end. Jake shut all the lights in here, but left the monitors on with the Stage 89 logo with the spotlights going back and forth. And the music loop we played all weekend, I think, was essentially the original Hollywood Boulevard and Sunset Boulevard music loops, which can be a slightly melancholy and under the right circumstances.
Yeah.
And so I walk into an all-dark room, just the light from the TVs and the logo, and that melancholy
like when you wish upon a
Hollywood
star,
Boulevard, slow, jazzy kind of music playing. And I was like, this is, I ended up taking video. I know Jake then took video too. We took video of it because it was it's a moment in time that was really, coming down from the magic of the event, this that post-event depression kicks in right there.
All that adrenaline that you've built up over the course of time just gets flushed out of your system. And I bonded with these people. I bonded with them because they immediately, I had a discussion with a few of the Imagineers, and they're like, they know what kind of effort we put into this and the mad scramble to get something across that's what they did for a living.
Yeah.
Right? All of them have done a mad scramble to get across the finish line and then been like, now what? Whew. I think it was Kathy told me with Disneyland Paris, when they built the second gate, whatever it's called.
Walt Disney Disney Adventure World.
Adventure World. That they left behind a large punch list of things that need to be, like the park was substantially complete, but there were a number of things
arguable, but I understand.
But they left behind a punch list for the people that were in charge of that park to handle. Like a year later, like none of it had been done. They're just like, it's good enough. They're just left it the way it was. But I thought that was funny, to talk about that. But I just, and the broad experience from people who made models and sculptures and painters to people who were in there getting dirty every day to, McNair Wilson, who's a performer or an actor, helped develop things like Comedy Warehouse and Ventures Club and Citizens of Main Street, all these things, or Citizens of Hollywood, excuse me. And, all these people that from very different backgrounds that were, I'd like building that team. Think about the process, like, you know what I need? Like, we know who the team is now. But like to identify ahead of time, like I need someone that can do this. I need someone that can do that. And you know what? I need some people that can kind of be flexible and do a little bit of everything. I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
The leadership to do that is special. For a project of that size and budget.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Can we talk about when Paul Oster? I'm going to
please talk about
right.
Paul.
I'm pronouncing it wrong. Osterhout is wrong because he said it a different way, and I can't remember. Was Oosterhout or I don't know. But anyway, Paul and his wife, the sweetest people. When he brought out the actual, they didn't tell me what they were doing. All I know is someone came to, I think Allison came to me and she goes, they want 3D glasses. And I'm like, what do you mean they want 3D glasses? Like, the Imagineers want 3D glasses. I was like, I know we have some here somewhere, and I'm thinking like I know I have a bag of the Shrek ones.
Yeah.
And they said they didn't care what color.
They
I don't
might be
know.
polarized.
I
in a
have
different
Muppet
direction.
ones somewhere, but in the mess of moving everything, God knows where anything is in this place right now. And so I think Lucas eventually told Allison we had the Flight of Passage ones that I accidentally stepped on at some point. So those were out in here. And so they just brought him those. And so they sit on stage, and Paul has this bag, and there's a stick sticking out of it. And I'm like, what are they doing? The minute Paul, at the beginning of the Muppet panel, reaches in it's not even out yet. He grabs the stick, and the light bulb goes off in my head. And I'm like, no, it's not. There's no way. And it comes out, and it's the actual, when Gonzo is behind the door and shoves the 3D slowly towards you through the door.
With the 3D on it.
It is the actual real
way.
prop. Oh, you missed this, didn't you?
I wasn't here. I was in the back.
actual real prop that is the 3D letters that come at you at the beginning of Muppet Vision. Paul has it and is shoving it towards the screen for the people at home, and me and the entire crowd are losing it because here is, we have some incredible props out there, but like this is Muppet Vision. This is the last work of Jim Henson. This is an incredibly beloved thing, and this is the opening moment. Like, this is an incredibly iconic moment of that show, and it's one of those things that's, when you have the props from the Great Movie Ride, you remember seeing that prop physically there, like it was there. This is something that you've been emotionally connected to where it's always been on a screen. You've never been able to see it and get the texture and understand what it really is. So to see that thing leap off the screen and be in front of you, I think it made it the most special prop of the entire weekend.
Yeah, that's amazing. Another thing that I didn't know is that all the former Imagineers in the region get together for lunch once a month. And I think Cindy Cody is the one who organizes that.
Yeah. The alumni group,
Yeah. And basically, they organized their luncheon to coincide with our event so that yesterday, the event's over yesterday, I'm just running people back and forth to the airport, that they all got together for brunch. So I think I'm picking people up. right? I'm going, okay, after brunch, I'll pick you up, then I'll come back, I'll pick you up at 1, I'll pick you 3 up at 2, whatever. And I go to the restaurant, and in the courtyard, there's 150 people. I didn't know that all the local like Imagineer alumni were there. And Eric Jacobson's like, Eric, come get in the Eric photo. I'm like taking photos with all the Imagineers named Eric. You know, I'm the only moron in the group. They're all these geniuses who have done these incredible. Eric Kovac had, among other things, like, I don't know, carved the animals in the Tree of Life.
Oh, wow.
You know, Eric Stapp, he's like a show programmer. Eric Jacobson, me, I have another with me, and Eric Robinson. You know, it's like all the Erics. I'm like, I feel like the Eric failure, but it was so cool to feel close enough to them that they're like involving me in like their conversations and pictures. And of course you got invited to the luncheon.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's a scary thing for me, right? To talk about intimidation, to be like, oh, I'm the guest of honor at this thing, like, and so, because I told Cindy, I was like, I don't need to be invited. Like, I wasn't an Imagineer. Like, we want you to be there. I was like, okay. And so I go and I'm doing the rounds, and it's magical. But then at the end, you came after the group photo. That's why everyone was out in the courtyard. And originally I said, I will not be in the group photo. I'm not going to be. I'm not an Imagineer. And so eventually Cindy and them, they bothered me enough where I was like, look, take a photo for all of you that is all of you. I would love to have one where I'm with all of you just for me. Please do not use this one anywhere because I do not want to be credited with something that I have not achieved, right? You have all achieved this. This is your moment. I would love to have one for me, though. If you'd like to take one with me, that would mean the world to me. And so that's what happened is that we took a few of them, and then I jumped in real quick, and we took one, and that's...
I feel like I share a spirit with them. I feel like I would be I would fit in with the Imagineers perfectly, except for my total lack of talent that they have, like the genius that they all have, but like the spirit is infectious. So I understand how they were able to pull these things off just by watching how they kind of get along together and understand things together. And I think anybody would benefit from being around those people for a long period of time because it's impossible not to feel that spirit. You know, I wish I had the talent and imagination to do the things that they do, but it made me so. I spent most of the event just feeling happy for them. Yeah. I didn't even really the panels I didn't get to participate in, but I got so much joy out of watching them all see each other for the first time forever and just hang out. They were so happy. We attended a very different event than those watching at home and even those in the room got to, right, by being behind those doors, right? And, you know, we are very, very lucky to have experienced what we've experienced, And look, my car has hosted so many famous people now. I feel my car is famous. But again, like,
I think on Thursday that space back there, I was like, this is an awful start for a new space. It feels very toxic in this space. And then, you know, they consecrated that space in a way no one else could have. Like that space now, I will forever love every inch of our office because it all feels very special now. It was the right way. I will say, I know it was an absolute nightmare.
Yes.
To go through what we all went through. But at the same time, like the fact that Stage 89 was the like official opening of this space, it does consecrate it in a way where I think this all feels like home and it all feels special and it feels like a really exciting place to come to work every day.
It was like burning sage to exercise the bad
the Thursday night demons.
It was
Jason and I yelling at each other among other things.
That was bad. But without struggle, there is no triumph or something like that someone probably
Thursday was the culmination also, I think, of a lot of, like, we were all very frustrated with
emotionally
the way things
exhausted.
had gone.
Physically, Lucas was sleeping in the
and he
studio
forgot to tell Allison that he was going to sleep at the studio.
I got to tell this story. So I'm driving to the studio early in the morning on, I think, Wednesday or something like that.
For people that don't know Lucas does, I don't know how many people watch News Tonight. That's where most people know him from. I'll set the backstory for you real quick. Lucas does our set design, pretty much any construction project here around the office was almost all of the museum up front is Lucas's work. But yeah, that's who Lucas is.
Yeah, and we had artifacts that we added, props that we added on Friday, right?
Yeah.
We got the new stuff. I mean, they've got the Delta Dreamflight plane mounted on its ramp finally. We have one of the girls from Footlight Parade, one of the figures. We have the Catwalk Bar sign, the original sign to the Catwalk Bar.
So cool.
We have one of the Mummy animatronics from the Great Movie Ride. We have the Cat in the Trash Can from the Great Movie Ride. We have a chimney sweep from the Great Movie Ride. Most of these courtesy of our friend Josh.
Yeah.
Who owns a lot of this amazing stuff.
There's a
But
sign
all that
from
stuff
Movie
got,
Ride.
Yeah, a sign, like all this stuff got installed like last minute and rush. But yeah, Allison called me, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday morning. And she didn't call me, she texted me. I'm driving to the studio, it's like 7:30 in the morning. And she says, do you have access to the cameras? Because we have, I don't know, 20 cameras around the studio.
Yeah.
Some of them are just to the security system and some are to another system that we can monitor.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm driving right now. And she said, because I haven't seen Lucas or heard from him. So I get here, I walk around, I don't see his car.
Yeah.
And I turn on the lights in here, and there's Lucas right there, sleeping on a row of chairs.
Oh, he didn't even, not even the sofa, Lucas?
No, he didn't like the sofa. The sofa wasn't as comfortable as the row of chairs. So
Did you try the sofa? Yeah, and you didn't like
it's
it?
too short. Yeah.
Oh, see, I let my legs hang off the edge of that sofa.
Yeah, but you cut off
I've
the
slept there a couple
circulation to
times.
your lower legs eventually.
It's true, but I do like that little sofa. But anyway.
So Lucas and Jake have both spent the night in this studio before. You and I have both at least been here. Like I've been here late enough to get home as the sun was coming up, but I've never actually laid my head down and slept here.
I think one marathon show, all of 2 hours, I think, but I slept here in one marathon show.
Obviously, Wigs member Julie has slept. we joked that she used to live here.
I like that she came to the event and it's just like, what did you say to me? She said we didn't clear any of these changes to her home with
we didn't clear any of these changes with Julie before we started tearing the place apart.
Yeah.
So all in all, this event, I would like to just brag and say it was successful because we pulled something amazing off. But what I really feel like is that the people that were there is what made this event so special. So despite all of our best efforts, what we did was basically provide a venue for magic to happen. And the magic that happened is something that I think these people will remember forever. They've all remarked to me how incredible the time was. Even the quiet ones. Some of these Imagineers are very quiet, understated people.
Yeah.
They work alone. They paint. They sculpt. They do their thing and keep their head down. Maybe go have lunch with each other and then they go back to work. Some of them are more outgoing and fun, but together they all really respect the talent that the others bring to the project, and they all have just an incredible bond with one another. That I sound like a broken record.
But I think that the legacy of WDWNT, despite what the internet may say about us, is that I think we've always been really good at knowing what the fandom wants because it's what we want, right?
Right.
And so what we've been great at is facilitating those moments, right? It's always, and the story always is, and look, I love the Walt Disney Company very much, but the truth is, they're not good at facilitating these moments or giving the fandom what they want. They're just not good at it, right? D23, for being an official Disney fan club, just doesn't tick the right boxes, right? So I remember
It's got too big.
I had a conversation with them in the green room with the Imagineers where it was like, I think someone asked why we would do this. It's like, well, because D23 won't do it. Like D23 once did that one day like Epcot thing for I think it was the 30th or 35th. Mm-hmm. I don't remember. But it was a one-day thing, and it was just for that park, and they just never really have done that again. Paris did a little bit with the 30th where they had that Imagineering panel, which was great. And I'm like, why isn't this always a thing? I was like, the reason we do this is because Disney won't, and that's always the story of these events. Illumination's farewell. They pitched to Disney that they wanted to do a farewell event, and when Disney didn't want to do the farewell event, all they wanted to do was have a group dinner and see the last show. It's all they wanted, and Disney didn't facilitate that. And so Ron Logan, God rest his soul, and I thought of Ron all weekend because I think Ron was the thing that set all these events off. He set everything in motion that has become our events. Ron Logan, when he opened up that Rolodex and gave me Don Dorsey's phone number,
Yeah.
You know, like that because Disney wouldn't do anything. And that we were just like, look, we will make this dinner happen. What I would, if you wouldn't mind, what I would like in return is I would love to be able to give the world the stories of how the show was made. I would love to put you all in a convention center for a few hours and just tell everybody and document the story of the creation of probably the greatest nighttime show in the history of themed entertainment. Let's do that. And they were overjoyed by that. The idea, like, and again, like, I think none of them, those people have presented in public even less than any Imagineers that were at the event this weekend, which some of them had not presented much. But you're getting down into the depths with show techs and these people who are incredibly important as anyone to making these things happen, but not people who ever get to tell their story.
Right.
And that was the magic of that event. And I think they lit up the same way these Imagineers did, where once you start telling the story and you see the crowd, like you look in that crowd and people are smiling and laughing, and there you see how much the people in the crowd appreciate what you did.
And this space is special, right? I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
330 days a year, this place is a colossal waste of money. It is a terrible business decision to have all of this space dead, especially now that our museum is more than tripled in size.
Yeah.
It's a colossal waste of our company resources to have this space.
Yeah.
It's even the space next door that we expanded our desks into is too big, too much for a little, a little scrappy little blog like us, right? But what it can do is create these special moments.
Yeah.
So even though most of the time it's a bad idea to have this space, it's pretty damn cool to have it when we need it. Because I think this made it more special than if we had it in any ballroom, in any hotel space, with in any breakout room or something like that. This is better even for all our faults here, for all the flaws of this studio.
We have a lot
in this space, and for the evil spirits that resided next door when we moved in a little over a week and a half ago.
We had Figment do an exorcism. It's all right.
We need to burn some
crystal beams. And
we have started theming. Wow.
The idea bag is full. I have exorcised the demons.
We have the other funny thing, and I know we want to wrap up pretty soon. Another funny thing is, as we're moving in, we just put piece of paper on all the doors.
Yeah.
Eric's office, Jason's office, studio. So when we're moving things, people know where stuff goes.
But you had fun with a couple of them. There's
a few of them. There's one of the bathrooms is called Closet of Water inspired by Moana. Right. So there's one room that's your storage room.
Ridiculously large, but still not big enough storage facility.
So, but then an artist like Eric Robinson goes in and starts playing with these signs. Yeah. So there's Tom's office, and Tom has a window in his office. Now Eric has drawn in dry erase marker this amazing like Mickey drawing and things like that. Now we can't ever clean that, right?
I'm leaving it.
He took there. So one of the signs says ridiculously large, but not big enough, but not large enough storage facility. So Eric Robinson goes by where it says ridiculously large, but he adds a T to butt. And he drew like a ridiculously large butt next to it, right? He drew Moana surfing on the Closet of Water
cute.
inspired by Moana.
I think we have to laminate them and keep them all.
Yeah, we got to keep it. Take the painter's tape off them carefully or something so we can save them. Yeah. It's like they've made this a space we almost can't change because it's so. We can't finish moving in because the art is too good. Yeah. I just think it's hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's again. I think. There is this space is magical. We've had a couple of really magical moments, and I think this weekend probably the most magical at this point. But I mean, I just
now I have to build the permanent podcast studio, but you'll be maybe gone. I don't know.
I've extended my stay here a couple days.
Can you record for another episode for next week's podcast?
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because I'm going to be here till next Tuesday now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then back to Tokyo with you.
Just for a little bit, though, because then I have to be back in June for Tiana. But,
You want to talk about the shirt?
We should plug the shirt.
I'm wearing Park Candy.
You are.
Light, stretchy, this is comfortable, clever design.
Very similar material. Something in my eye. for this shirt that I'm wearing, which is brand new from Carousel of Products. It's on pre-order. We expect it will ship relatively soon. I know it says June. It may be sooner than that. We'll see. But at least by June. And this is Tower Terror. Holly Ballard, who you probably know if you've been in the community a long time. She is an insanely talented artist. I love her. She draws so much. I think I would describe a lot of her stuff as kawaii. She's very much influenced by Japan at times. But she did all the art on this, which it's all this iconography from the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, inspired by the Twilight Zone
Oh, look at that. We got
Terror.
yeah, they had your photo up there showing
They
it
made me
off.
model, like the ugliest model to ever live, but nonetheless, it has the Tip Top Club and the Sunset Room, drop-ins welcome, the key, the keychain for the room key,
Shriki Utundu.
and there is one homage that connects it to all the towers in the world, which is there is a Shriki Utundu head here on the shirt. I don't know where mine is. I think he's up here. I don't know if you see that at home.
There he is. He's on your shoulder.
But he's there, which I love because
Your former roommate.
they're all connected, right? They're all inspired by this one attraction. Which, if you haven't watched Stage 89, that tower panel was everyone was my favorite moment of the event was I dug up. There's footage of like the making of the pre-show.
Yeah.
And it's on the internet. Like, I didn't do God's work finding it, but I wanted to put it. I was like, this might inspire some good stories. Maybe they were there or something. I have no idea, but we should show this. So I gave it to Jake. Jake plays it. And in the middle of it, I see all the Imagineers going. And I'm like, have they not seen this? Is that possible? And at one point, I'm like, have you guys seen it? And they go, no, I've never seen this.
Wow.
And the crowd, you hear the crowd gasping too. And I'm like, wow, no one has seen this. And then we're watching Adam the Woo, who we invited as media because he's a good friend, came in for a little bit of the event. And I watched his vlog. And thank you, Adam. I know Adam listens to the podcast. But I watched the vlog, and Adam made us look like $1 million. But he what I love about these events is people get stories about these things they love that they carry with them the rest of their lives. And Adam's vlog captures that so perfectly because Adam learned that Joe Dante, which it's not a well-known thing. Like, Adam felt silly for not knowing it, but I don't remember. I didn't know it.
Directed the pre-show?
I didn't know it until I saw that footage. Joe Dante of Gremlins fame was the director of the pre-show. And it wasn't filmed in the ride. It was filmed, they built a set using the blueprints from the ride. And that for Adam was that moment he had where I had several of them through the weekend where I learned something. And we'll talk about the plane story. We have a couple minutes. But that, when Adam tells that story and he's so excited about it, that for me is what makes these events so special, is that you get to learn stories from the people that were in the room that you didn't know about this favorite attraction you have where you think you've read everything and watched everything. You inevitably learn something, and that every time you see that thing in the ride, you remember that moment, right? I will never watch that pre-show again and not think of what happened on stage here. And I'm sure for Adam it's the same, where he will never not think of seeing that footage with Joe Dante, and like it'll always trigger that memory. And I know the pickle, for those that didn't catch the end, I love that what we ended the event with was the pickle jar. So for those of you who don't know, I was told many, many years ago that there is a pickle jar at the exit of Tower Tower. It's in the cage where the photo claim is. There's that picture, if you will, sign in the back. There's this big jar that's turned brown. The story I had been told was that the prop master or someone in that group, someone brought a jar of pickles to work that day.
For lunch or something?
Yeah, and it got put on the counter, and they were placing the props where they were going to be, and then someone would come by and glue them down. The jar of pickles accidentally got left. The person came through with the glue, glued it down. They came back. They tried to pull it. They're like, oh, no. And then they just looked at each other and went, well, I guess just leave it. It looks fine there. Look out of place. Why not?
See if Lane... We gotta talk to Lane about it, right?
We're gonna find out. But then Courtney, our social media manager, and I've never spoken to her about this. I think I gave her the story, and she looks at me and she goes, "I was told it's pickled sausages, and that's from someone that worked on it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, so that's a different wrinkle. It's not pickles; it's pickled sausages." All right.
It is hard to tell what it is.
Yeah, and then at the end of the panel, I'm sitting there thinking like, I should ask about the pickle jar. And I bring it up, and everyone's brows furl. All of their brows furl. And they're like, what? What are you talking about? And I just go, oh no, maybe it's all not real. And so no one knows if this is real or not. And these are people that were in the room when it happened. And so at lunch yesterday, we sat with Lane, who's the sweetest human being. I love her to death. She says, she's like, please send me the photo. We went last night to take the pictures. She's like, please send me photos. I really want to figure it out. And she said to me, she goes, I was in charge of those props, and that doesn't ring a bell, so I don't know. And I'm like, it probably means it's not real, but we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to solve this once and for all.
We need to get to this is an important mystery that the fandom needs to know.
It is, because for those of you who don't know, another News Tonight thing, it goes back to See You Relate even, the old radio version of News Tonight, if you will. When we do Cornack, which is based on Karnak from The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, they used to have, it was the Funk and Wagnall, the envelopes were left on the front porch of whatever. Mm-hmm. So we changed it to be the envelopes were left in a pickle jar at the Tower Terrace since noon on blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so that's been part of our company for over a decade. And if that's not real, that's earth-shattering for us.
I also drove Mark Silverman around yesterday to go. He's staying at Disney World for a few days, so I took him to his hotel. And interesting, he's the voice of Rod Serling on the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. And to hear him talk about the project is pretty interesting. He also does. He's like, oh, by the way, he wasn't on our Star Tours panel, but he did voice work. You'll hear him as like an airport PA announcer on Star Tours, and he's said one of his best friends is Peter Renaday. Peter's 90 years old, but he's the voice of Henry in the Country Bear Jamboree. I think he's the ghost host on a Haunted Mansion album. He's the voice of Captain Nemo on 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. He's the voice of Master Splinter, I think, on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I don't know that one, but possibly.
I think I don't remember.
But Peter's a legend.
He's
no
a legend.
What. Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, he's 90 years old, and I guess Mark said when he found out they were redoing Country Bears, he was like, well, he called WDI, like, have you guys reached out to Peter? And they're like, nah, we figure he may not be up to the task, type of thing. You know, you're like, how cool is that, though, that, you know, you just know a guy that's done, like, his voice is just everywhere you go in the parks.
Yeah, because back then, it was just a small group of, like, voiceover people they used over and over.
Yeah.
So Peter's in, like, almost everything from that era, Yeah. I had a moment with, Eric Jacobson was on the team for the Christmas show of the Country Bears, and so I was eating lunch in our country. We have a country. You guys will get the chance to come and see this museum. I'll talk a little bit about it at the end of the show, but I'm at one of you bought cocktail tables, and so I'm at one of those very scarfing down lunch because I had like 5 minutes to the presentation. They come looking for me. Brock Thoman and Eric Jacobson come in, and Eric's in the bear room, and he's like, oh yeah, we did the Christmas show, and that was a magical moment for you to be amongst Brock Thoman. Oh my God, the saddest moment with Brock was I went to talk to Brock about he worked on Disney Sea. He did the Fortress, which is in front of Mount Prometheus. He was on that project, which is gorgeous, and then Journey to the Center of the Earth, one of the greatest attractions ever done anywhere. And I talked to Brock, and Brock goes, I never got to see the finished product. So Brock was like,
he's never been there?
My last visit was, no, he's been there. My last visit was when Honey Hunt was about to open. So he also worked on Pooh's Honey Hunt. Talk about what a way to go out. Those 3 projects, Jesus. Like 3 of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. But they did Honey Hunt, and while he was there for Honey Hunt, at that point they're like a year out from the opening of Disney Sea. So that's the last time he got to walk through Journey. He said pretty much everything, but the ride wasn't running, but they could see everything else. So he did get to see all the sets and everything for Journey, but his understanding, he said, is that it turned out beautiful. I said, Brock, it turned out more beautifully than you could
one of the best rides
possibly
in the world.
Imagine. That and the Fortress is gorgeous. Yeah. I wish so much in that moment. All I want to do is like invent the world's first teleporter and take Brock to see what they did with his work and to see what the team pulled off there. Because I think that breaks my heart that he brought so much joy to people and he's never gotten to see that joy firsthand.
I'm cruising along with Richard Vaughn in my car.
Mm-hmm. As one does.
As one does. And he just casually mentions like, oh yeah, and then I also did, Poseidon's Fury over at Islands of Adventure. I'm like, what? Because I guess I hadn't read that deep into bio. I didn't see that.
Did you know someone?
And I'm like, so I showed up yesterday. I had to wear it. I was wearing the Poseidon's Fury T-shirt yesterday when I saw him at the luncheon.
Yeah. Did you know he wasn't the only person in the room that worked on that? It just wasn't in his bio. Chris Brown worked with him on that. The two of them worked on that together. And I think at the end of the day on Sunday, I ended up talking to both of them about it. Mm-hmm. But then Chris Brown also did Waterworld. So Chris Brown did Indiana Jones, Poseidon, and Waterworld, which I think are the three most iconic stunt shows. Probably the three best stunt shows in themed entertainment history. Chris Brown touched all of those.
Yeah. Richard was telling me how he came up with the water tunnel idea.
Yeah.
Which is the coolest theme park effect that you get to experience, I think, because you get to walk right through it, right?
Yeah.
If you've never been there, if you've never been on experience Poseidon's Fury, there's a point where something unlocks and you go through, and there's a tunnel of water.
The vortex.
It's a vortex of water.
Yeah.
It basically, underneath a walkway that you're on, they're blasting water at 1 billion miles an hour up against a curved hallway, so the water's just swirling on all sides of you. And there's lights and smoke. And
so cool.
He's like trying to explain it to people. So he did the old take a bucket of water and swing it around you in a circle, and none of the water comes out. It's like a centrifugal force type of argument he's trying to make for them trying to build this.
Yeah.
And then they all got it, right? Because everyone did that experiment when you were a kid, right? Swing a bucket of water around. But they're like, oh, but what happens if it stops? He's like, you get wet. Like, you get wet.
And it happened. The people have stories. It happened. But no, God, I mean, that was, for me, as far as Universal is concerned, I think the coolest scene of anything they've ever done.
It's the coolest scene of any theme park I've ever go. Like, just to be, because you're in the middle of it, right? You're right there. You can reach out.
It definitely is the one that feels the most, it's the one where it feels like the theme park has the least control over the situation. Right. It's the one where you walk through it, where you're like, it's the only scene in an attraction, I would say, that even if you've done it 100 times, you still walk underneath and go, I could get destroyed right now, right? Like nothing's actually really stopping this from happening.
Was it Brock and Paul that talked about the Snow White 94 when they just had to stock a bunch of apples because people would reach out and steal the apples?
At Disneyland, yeah.
I thought it was 94. That was Disneyland.
They decided, they worked on the Disney World 94 update. And they wanted to make a scene where you could not reach the apple, essentially. But yeah, I own, I forget if they're brown lines, whatever they're called. I have a bunch of plans for Snow White, and I knew Paul worked on it. So one day we're standing around, I was like, Paul, can I show you something? And I pull it out, and Paul starts thumbing through it. He goes, Brock's name is on these, right? And so we bring Brock in.
Brock,
We bring Brock in, and like it's the coolest thing to relive that project with them as they thumb through this paperwork. It was so cool. What a great moment. I loved it.
I'm going to be talking about this moment forever.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we need to kind of wrap up. You got to go to the dentist.
I have a few minutes. Can we tell another story or two, maybe? Or do you need to go?
I need to go too.
Do you have 10 minutes?
Do I have 10 minutes? Hold on. I just got a text from one of the Imagineers.
Yeah, I think I got an email too. So maybe you don't. I don't know. Let's check our email live on the air.
No. It's about his art. It's about Eric had a question about his artwork.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I do have something from Philip though, so I should probably check that.
Oh yeah, I need to pick up Philip later today.
No, you do have to pick him up. Okay. Yeah. So do you want me to end? Or do you want me to tell another story?
Let's tell one more story. Okay. What do you got?
For me, my favorite moment was at the, we essentially completed a project with Imagineers, right? Mm-hmm. So that dinner on Sunday is the wind down. There's alcohol flowing, and everyone's eating pizza and tacos.
I'm the one jackass that can't have a beer because I'm driving everyone around.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But you got to enjoy everyone's stories, though, anyway.
Right.
But we sat next to Kathy Rogers. And Kathy, they all know because I told them in the course of the Zooms, I'm like, I apologize, for my emails being late and stuff. I'm in Japan. And so she starts telling a story about she got sent to Tokyo to do the update of the Jungle Cruise, the weird, wacky one I talk about. Yeah. There'll be a vlog all about it in a couple days.
The bizarre one.
Yeah. And so we talk about, because they added audio to it, there's this weird moment where you reach the savannah and the Lion King music kicks in. That just kicks in on the savannah of the Jungle Cruise, and you're like, what is happening? And so I talked to Kathy about that, and I agreed with her. I was like, Kathy, I totally agree. Like, the other moments where you have the original music, it adds so much, and I can't believe, and we both can't believe that Disney hasn't added music to the Jungle Cruise around the world at this point. But I go, Kathy, that Lion King moment is weird. And she just starts laughing and goes, no, I love it. It's great. And so to have like this, this impromptu, conversation, very fun, open conversation about something she worked on. And to have this, to discuss our differences, our different opinions on, does it work? Does it not? Is it weird? Is it not? That for me was the best moment, where because we're just having a good time at that point and reliving that, and to have, that's a dream come true for me, to have that back and forth with someone that actually created the project and talk about, why did you do it? Do you think it works? Is it weird? Is it not? That was a moment for me.
For me, I was in a car with Lane and Valerie Johnson, and Valerie Johnson Redrow, and.
Yes.
Valerie is a film person. She did television studio work and movie studio work, and she developed Superstar Television.
Yeah.
So the things that she did, when I was young, I couldn't wait to try to get on Superstar. I would go to the park, I'd arrange where I was in the queue just so I could get selected for Superstar Television. Yeah. And she said, were you ever picked? I was like, yeah, I did the hey, Dave, how come you never do anything educational? And then she showed it in her presentation. I didn't see it, but I heard it.
The watermelons.
Yeah, the watermelon, and the thing about the beer, like how much beer, and that was amazing. And then I talked to Lane briefly after we dropped her Valerie off, and we just talked about critique and things like that, and I had to bring up Runaway Railway, and all I said was, I just feel like if you replace something people love, you have to replace it with something better.
Yeah.
And she was, she didn't have a strong opinion. I don't know if she's even been on Runaway Railway. But she asked me, what I thought, and I was like, I think it's cool, I guess, but it's not my thing. I also had a conversation with Sandy Russell and Kathy Rogers, where we talked about what Studios is now, and it was mentioned, I kind of worked on some of the Toy Story
Toy Story
design. And I was like, a lot of people talk about how it doesn't have shade. They're like, is there not shade in the queue? Is there not indoor areas in the queue? I was like, I think maybe 20% of it. The rest is outdoor, and there's some umbrellas. Before they added
that weird canopy.
Yeah, and I was like, that's when the studio kind of changed from, we're showing you how we make movies, to now it's, I think the message is you get to experience what it's like to be in a movie. You go to Galaxy's Edge and you're part of the story. And I was like, I just kind of want you guys to tell me the story.
You don't want to create your own story.
I don't want to create my own story. I create my own story 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
It's not very good.
I would rather you create a story for me to just see and distract myself from the gravity of my own imagination.
Yeah. I think you nailed it. Yeah. I don't think there's anything that about that park that could be said that better explains. Yeah. Sometimes you do just want, they tell a great story. Like Tower of Terror, you're not telling, I'm not in the story. I'm experiencing your story.
Right.
I don't need my own story here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. But real quick, I know we're wrapping up. I want to mention, Eric talked about how 30 days a year we get to use this space. Towards the end of the summer, you're going to start to see a lot more stuff from us. Opportunities to come visit us, whether it's, we're working on an experience where you come in, you tour the museum, and then we load you in here, and you can watch us film News Today live. You can take a picture at the desk.
You want me to do that while you're gone?
Those kind of things. I don't think you want that.
No, there'll be a lot of F-bombs and cuts and me messing up the news.
So we're working on experiences like that. We want to do more of these, not just like Stage 89, but shorter form. Have a single Imagineer come in and talk about their career. Have just a handful of Imagineers talk about a single project. There's already a kind of halfway between event that we're already working on for next year now, given what happened this weekend. I don't think I want to spoil that just yet, but we'll talk about it soon, I'm sure. More events, more opportunities to tour and be a part of our programming. More of that kind of stuff. That was the big reason why we wanted this project. It wasn't just to buy a storage space that's not big enough for everything we have to begin with. It was really that we know we have something special growing here at WDWNT Celebration, and it's become Someone said to me, I think it was Golden Jamboree, someone said this is kind of the fifth gate. And that's the way we view it now. Is I think Walt Disney World has 4 parks. The 5th park is here, and it is the park. People have asked for years what they should do, a park of extinct attractions. We're kind of going to be that. I think that's kind of what we're going to try to be.
I'll just say this: the museum was nice before. The space we were in for what it was very nice.
Yeah.
And the new one is not complete.
Not yet.
But it is sick, dude.
Yeah.
It is awesome. There's some amazing stuff in there. Yeah. You can come up and get really close to some of these old animatronics and figures and things.
Take a picture with them. And,
you can make the cat meow in the trash can. You can,
Adam in his video kept doing it over and over.
Yeah, Adam tours about half of the museum in his video, really. And there's more to see here, so I can't wait to share it with people.
And it wasn't finished.
There's more stuff that's also not finished, but it's finished to the extent that people could walk in and look at stuff and have a good time. But it's not complete by any stretch of the imagination. It will always be in a state of becoming.
It will. It will. We will always change out exhibits and stuff. And there's more. I know he mentioned it. The Mold-A-Rama machine was not a permanent installation. That does not mean we will not have cool souvenir opportunities moving forward.
That's correct.
We are working on some permanent ideas, so stay tuned. Again, after D23 Expo, when I'm settled back in, it's not even called that anymore, but we are going to begin to really focus on events and live programming and all sorts of stuff like that. So stay tuned. There'll be plenty of opportunities for you when you visit Walt Disney World to come see us.
And if you play your cards right, you can use the restroom at Closet of Water inspired by Moana. Back in the new office.
We can't. I'm not going to spoil the electric umbrella bathrooms yet.
No,
not yet.
We got to come. The clever names, I can think of them, but none of them are appropriate. So we're gonna. All right. Well, that's it for this episode. Please like us, share us, do all that kind of stuff.
Please go watch Stage 89.
Watch Stage 89. You go to stage89.com. You can read about all these Imagineers that were here, or most of them. We actually had some that we don't have bios up for that managed to make it to the event.
Some last minute squeeze-ins.
Plus people we didn't even talk about whose careers are so gigantic that it'd be impossible to encapsulate. Randy Prince, some of these people whose careers are so giant.
Yeah.
It's impossible to talk about.
And see Bob Weiss wear one of my shirts.
Yeah, Bob showed up wearing one of your shirts off of the rack in your office.
He stole it that morning. He took one of my shirts off the rack and he wore it the whole presentation. It's now just in there. I'm like, do I wash it? Like, I don't know what to do. Do we just leave it up? Do I never wear it again? I don't know. But I'm going to tell one last story very quickly. This is an incredible one from Friday night at the Mixer. Bob and Eric Robison are signing right here.
Right.
I guess my parents finally got to them with the lithographs, and they say, "Oh, Tom is our son." Bob gets out of his chair. We're out there by the beer truck, out through the gate. Bob Weiss comes all the way out there and yells at me and goes, "Tom, your parents want you." You ever have that moment in a dream where someone says something and you realize, oh, this isn't real?
Bob Weiss.
And you wake up, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to wake up now. Bob Weiss is yelling at me that my parents need to see me, but your parents want you. I'm like, what? What's happening? And what happened was they wanted to all take a picture with Bob, all of us together with Bob.
Yeah.
And so I get up here, my father is gone, and Bob just goes, yeah, I've known your father only for a few minutes, but this sounds like something your father would do. And so we took a photo, but then eventually we found my father later, and we all took a group photo with Bob.
Who's a photo? Eric Robinson drew your whole family.
He did.
We could go on and on with this.
This could be 4 more episodes just this weekend, but I'm sure over time we'll tell these stories.
Thanks to the WIGs that attended. I know you got some special perks for coming. The WDWNT Interglobe Society. Go to patreon.com/WDWNT to find out more information. The Gertie plushes, if you ordered one, they're starting to trickle in. We don't have enough to really start doing the bulk shipments yet, but we had them for the people at the event.
But I believe in the next 7 days
we're expecting
they're
several
arriving.
pallets of Gertie plush, and they will get turned around as quickly as we can so that we have space to operate around here. And these Tower of Terror shirts, the pre-order, these are...
I love this shirt
These
so
shirts
much.
inspired by the Tower of Terror.
There's also the cool thing on the flap, the little quote. I love this is, Carousel Products is going to be a big thing for us moving forward. You guys supported Gertie so strongly, and I'm sure you guys are going to support this so strongly. We have so much more in the pipeline and more rapid releases too. So,
and if you want to support our friends at Park Candy too, you go to parkcandy.com, and if you put in the code WDWNT checkout, you get 15% off. These are made from basically same material,
very similar,
very similar. So we'd like to invite you to do that, and we'd like to invite you to share, go down our playlist and find stuff that you like in here, because this audience is growing, and we took last week off. I apologize.
I know.
It couldn't be avoided. We did record last week. Some of you have seen that episode. Unfortunately, the quality was somewhat degraded, so it didn't launch. But we'll see you next time right here on the WDW News Today podcast.
See you real soon.